How's it going, everybody? It's Riley's Red Zone here, and I'm excited because I just watched a live football game. Football is back, and so in today's video, I'm going to be doing something that I haven't done very often, but I'm looking at the Hall of Fame game that just happened. It just concluded a few minutes ago, and I'm going to be looking at whose stock went up, who played well, perhaps locked a roster spot, who maybe improved their case for a roster spot. So we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to talk about each team, some players that performed very well, and then we'll look at also some honorable mentions who played pretty well, and we'll go first with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's talk about who played well for the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight. Let's start with Chase Claypool, who was absolutely proven. I mean, to have a roster spot, he's one of their best players on offense. I was honestly a little surprised they even had him out there as long as they did, and it maybe came back to bite him. It seems as though he might be okay, but he made an unbelievable grab for a huge bomb from Mason Rudolph, which was an unbelievable catch, but he did get a little banged up on the play, didn't get up for a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a serious injury, but definitely maybe something that I was shocked they had him in longer than a series, as he's pivotal. Him and Deontay Johnson, I was honestly surprised they even played at all. But he did come out with 3 receptions and 62 yards, played pretty well. As I mentioned, his roster spot is locked up. I mean, he's one of the biggest role players on offense, but still worth noting that he had a great night. Let's next talk about Alex Highsmith going into his second year, who is competing for a starting spot opposite TJ Watt. They lost Bud Dupree this offseason. They bring in Melvin Ingram, who still is kind of adapting to the system. So Alex Highsmith gets an opportunity tonight and played really, really well in that first quarter. Got both a sack and a few big tackles for loss. So he really improved his case to be a starter on this team. He was for sure going to make the roster, but you can make a case now he could be the one starting opposite TJ Watt. So he could be in for a breakout second year. Let's also talk about Pressley Harvin III, one of the last picks in the draft, taken out of Georgia Tech as a punter. I did not think at the end of the night I was going to be talking about a Steelers punter being one of the best players, but he got all the opportunities. He's competing with Jordan Berry, who did not get any playing time tonight, so it was awesome for Pressley Harvin as he was able to get all of the playing time. He had a few absolutely unbelievable. His punt average, it's not like it was always far punts. It was specifically he placed them very well. He placed one inside the 10. He also had one where it bounced off of Reggie Davis's hands as he kind of put a little spin on it, and it bounced off the returner's hands. So he performed really well, and honestly, I think Jordan Berry wishes he got some playing time because it could turn out to be Pressley Harvin's job. He really made a good case to be the starting punter for this team. Cassius Marsh also performed pretty well on the defensive side. Another pass rusher like Alex Highsmith did get both a sack and a forced fumble tonight. So really making his case to be in the rotation there behind Highsmith, Ingram, and TJ Watt, perhaps to be in the rotation, make the roster. So it was good for him to make a few impact plays, as he could have been on the bubble before tonight, but now he made a pretty good case as to why he should stick around. Let's also talk about Miles Killebrew, a linebacker is what they have him listed at on their roster. He's played safety a majority of his career, a pretty hard hitter. He ended up with 6 tackles tonight. He made some good plays flying around the field. Another guy that was maybe on the bubble. They are lacking in inside linebacker depth, especially with the recent retirement of Vince Williams. So perhaps Miles Killebrew can step in and prove to be a pretty good piece in the rotation. I do think he was on the bubble before tonight. A good showing definitely helps his cause. Now let's talk about some second half heroes, starting with Kalen Ballage, who after Najee Harris played for the first while, ended up getting in the rotation, him and Anthony McFarland, and he performed relatively well. He looked pretty explosive to me. He ended up with the touchdown. More so just the explosiveness really helped. They signed him this offseason, and I definitely think he had a chance to be the number 2 behind Najee Harris. And with Benny Snell not playing tonight, I think Ballage really played well and proved to be possibly maybe to be the backup for this team. So I think Kalen Ballage now looks to be potentially the lock backup for this team, unless McFarland or Snell can step it up. but Ballage played very well tonight. Last but not least, for guys we're giving a spotlight to, let's talk about Matthew Sexton, the surprise of the night, undrafted rookie out of Eastern Michigan. And he looked really good out there on the punt return game, specifically with a 36-yard return. Looked good with the ball in his hands. He did get some reps at wide receiver later in the game. So he is involved possibly in this team. If you can play well on special teams, that's a great cause for you to make the team. Now, I saw him wearing that number 80, and the first player I thought of was Gunnar Olszewski, who's a receiver for the Patriots right now, who does a similar thing where he's good at returning, can play special teams, and potentially Sexton here could be maybe a future slot wide receiver for this team. Potentially, he did get some reps at wide receiver, so I think he made a really good case to at least be on the practice squad, but could potentially compete for a return spot on the actual roster. So Sexton really performed well tonight and made a really good cause for him to stick around. So let's close out talking about the Steelers with some honorable mentions. These guys played pretty well. Najee Harris was fine. He was good. He looked great. I mean, he didn't break off any crazy run. He did start with a first down, but he looked solid, and that's all you're really asking for a rookie running back right there. Josh Dobbs played really, really good tonight. I think he played the best quarterback. He was the best quarterback out there tonight out of any of them that played, better than Rudolph, Haskins, and anybody on the Cowboys. So I think he potentially made a case to maybe fight for a roster spot, but it's going to be hard to beat the other guys on the team, but he certainly made a case for it tonight. Also, Justin Lane and James Pierre both played pretty solid at corner tonight. Justin Lane had a forced fumble. Donovan Steiner had a interception that looked very, very good, like a ball hawk. He played very well with that interception. And Quincy Roche got both some action on special teams on some kickoffs, as well as he ended up with the sack tonight. So great to see that from the rookie. Was kind of overshadowed at Miami with Jalen Phillips. So he played pretty well, was looking to be a steal for them. And then Tyler Simmons scored a late touchdown. So some pretty solid contributions from these players to really make a case for why they should stick around as well. So being honest, the Cowboys did not look very good out there tonight, specifically on offense. But Micah Parsons probably was their biggest bright spot tonight playing linebacker. He was all over the field in that first quarter. It seemed like he was always the first one to make a tackle for those first few plays. He also ended up with a fumble recovery where it was a bad handoff between Mason Rudolph and Chase Claypool, and he dives on it and gets that ball. So really good effort from the rookie. Great to see. I think the Cowboys were looking for a corner in the draft, but Parsons fell into their lap, and they picked him, and it's working out to be really, really good. He performed great tonight. I'd say he was the best Cowboy out there that played at all tonight. So great to see from the rookie. He's developing well. At Penn State, he played a little bit of edge rush and middle linebacker. He ended up getting that fumble recovery on the edge. So he definitely performed really well tonight, and it is a great sign for Cowboys fans. Let's talk about Rico Dowdle, who was an undrafted rookie last year out of South Carolina. Didn't get a whole lot of playing time, but this year, Tony Pollard is the backup to Ezekiel Elliott. But behind that, you have a competition between him, Siwo Olinulia, I believe I pronounced that correct. He's kind of more of a fullback, but they ran him a bit tonight. They also have a few other undrafted rookies from this year. But to me, Rico Dowdle looked explosive, and to me, he's locked up that third running back spot, and perhaps is almost a guarantee for the roster now, as he looked great tonight, getting a lot of big runs in. So I think he's locked a spot behind Tony Pollard in this offense. So he'll be a depth running back for this team, and I think tonight definitely improved his case to be in the rotation. Cedrick Wilson was a pretty solid target out there tonight. Has dealt with some injury issues in the past, but I think tonight he played pretty well and proved that he can be in the rotation at receiver. They have obviously plenty of depth with Cooper, Gallup, and Lamb, but after that, it's kind of a wide open contest for some depth. I think Wilson also offers some special teams ability, so he looked pretty good and definitely improved his case to be a wide receiver on this roster. Reggie Robinson, the second, another guy that looks solid out there. He played cornerback at Tulsa, and they tried to move him to safety last year, and it just didn't work out. So they're switching him back to his natural position, and it worked out tonight as he had a forced fumble. That was a pretty key one. So he definitely looked good out there. Much more natural at the corner position. I think that's where they're going to want to keep him. And he is pretty much locked to make this roster as a depth corner. They bring in, a rookie in Deshaun Wright this year, but he still is pretty much a lock. They took him in like the 4th round last year. So they believe in him, and he definitely played pretty well tonight. And last but not least, again, is a receiver who was an undrafted free agent last year. Did not get much playing time, but I love the pickup out of Rhode Island, was Aaron Parker. I think he played the best receiver out of anybody on the Cowboys tonight, made a few contested catches, looked pretty solid out there. So he could potentially be fighting for a roster spot for sure. If not, you definitely need to keep him on the practice squad. He looked pretty good out there. So he definitely proved to be a second half top target, so maybe he can push his way onto the roster. Let's close this video out with talking about some honorable mentions from the Dallas Cowboys. As I mentioned, Deshaun Wright in the Reggie Robinson segment, he played relatively well out there for a rookie. Also, Sean McKeon, he ended up playing a decent amount at tight end with Blake Jarwin dealing with an injury and Dalton Schultz, just starting it. But then he ended up getting a lot of targets. He got 4. And then Luke Gifford made a few tackles on defense, has been on the roster a few times. He just played pretty well, trying to make another case. I put Malik Turner. He recovered himself. He started bad with that fumble. He recovered himself, I'd say, though, with a few decent catches. So he kind of ended up neutral. But he was, I think, their leading receiver tonight. So, I had to put him on here because he did play okay after that fumble. Made some solid catches, but definitely wasn't spectacular. And then Jabril Cox, as a rookie at linebacker, played pretty well. So they got some contributions from both Parsons and Cox as rookies. So that could potentially be a young linebacker duo. They also still have Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. So honestly, it just seemed tonight to me the Steelers outplayed the Cowboys in every way. So I don't have as many players for the Cowboys that played super well. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. This is something out of the ordinary, kind of something different on this channel. I've been doing a lot of roster previews recently, but tonight I decided I'd mix it up and, talk about tonight's game. It's great that football is back, and I'm super excited about that. Comment down below if there's any players you think played well that I missed, and maybe somebody that didn't deserve to be on this list, and let me know what you thought of tonight's game. I thought it was awesome just to have football again, but yeah, the Steelers played a whole lot better than the Cowboys. I will be excited to watch the Cowboys on Hard Knocks with this game because I doubt McCarthy was happy with the performance tonight. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.